Hello my gorgeous friends of Webflow, it's your friendly neighborhood Francesco from Supasido here. Today we're building something that every long, structured blog post page should have. A clean, responsive and fully accessible table of contents. Powered by Webflow and not that tiny bit of custom code. But as usual, the solution is completely no code for you. We'll go step by step through everything. How to structure your Webflow project, how to configure the TOC or table of contents using simple custom attributes, how to make the solution accessible for everyone, including screen reader users, and how to keep it fully responsive, even on mobile. And don't worry, this will work beautifully with static content or CMS content, and you won't need any library or plugin, of course. If you're looking forward to it as much as I am, stick around, and if you find my video helpful and want to support my work, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. But now, if you're ready, let's dive in. Alright, let's start by taking a look at where we are inside our Webflow project. We're currently in the Posts template page, which is connected to the Posts collection inside the CMS. And for this project, we're using the Notable, Blog and Editorial website template, which was built by the Webflow team themselves. I'll leave a link to the template in the description below in case you want to follow along. Now, let's not waste time with the header or footer, we're going straight to the section where the magic happens, the Post Content section. This section by itself is not really important for the configuration of our table of contents. What is important is the element inside of it, the one called Post Content Wrapper. This is where the real setup begins. The Post Content Wrapper is the element that we've assigned the attribute fc-toc equals wrapper. This tells our code, hey, this is the container that holds both the TOC and the content you want to generate the TOC or table of contents from. In practical terms, this wrapper is a two-column grid. In the first column, we've placed the element that will become our TOC. In the second column, we've got the actual content. We've set a gap of 5 rem, and we're using top as the vertical alignment. But why? Because we want the table of contents to stay sticky, but only take up the space it needs, not stretch across the entire column. That way, the sticky behavior works exactly as expected. Now, inside this wrapper, we've got a few elements. We'll talk about the first and last ones later. The first is a little button to open the TOC on mobile, and the last is a code embed that contains all the JavaScript needed to make this work. Let's instead focus on the rich text element. This is connected to the post content field from our CMS collection, and it holds the main content of each post. And here's the key part. We've assigned the attribute fc-toc equals content to this rich text element. That tells our code, this is the content we want to scan. Go find the headings inside and build a list of links pointing to each section. It's basically the source for our table of contents, and without it, the whole system wouldn't know what to generate. Let's move on to the real star of the show, the core of our table of contents setup. I'm talking about the element called blog post TOC. If we take a quick look at the style panel, we can see some padding at the bottom and a border down there too, but the key thing here is the position, sticky. That's what makes our TOC follow us as we scroll through the page. And the top offset is set to 150 pixels, which matches the height of our navbar plus the top padding of the post content section. Simple as that. But the real magic, it's hiding in the element settings panel. First, we've set the HTML tag to nav. Why? Because a TOC is essentially a navigation aid, and using the nav tag tells screen readers and other assistive technologies, hey, this section is for navigating the page content. It's a small change, but it makes a huge difference in terms of accessibility. Right below that, We've also added an area label equals table of contents. This gives our navigation region a name that screen readers can announce. Without it, users relying on assistive tech might not know what this nav is actually for. Inside the blog post TOC element, we've got two children. We'll talk about the first one later, it's for responsive design. But the second one is the heart of everything, the blog post TOC list. Looking at the style panel, we've removed all default list styles, set the display to flex, adjusted some padding, but most importantly, we've set max height to 50 VH and overflow to auto. This ensures that no matter how long our TOC gets, it won't grow endlessly and break our layout. Instead, it'll become scrollable when needed, keeping everything tidy and usable. Switching to the settings panel, you'll notice this is an ordered list. Why not unordered? Because for screen reader users, an ordered list communicates hierarchy and sequence more effectively. It gives a clearer idea of the structure of the content, especially when there are many nested levels. And then comes the key part. We've assigned the attribute fctoc equals component to this list. This tells our script, this is the container where you should dynamically inject all the links based on the content. No need to manually build a list. The script will take care of that. Inside this list, we have one list item for each heading level we want to include. In our case, we're covering everything from H2 to H6, giving us maximum precision. If all 6 heading levels exist in a post, they'll all show up in the TOC. But let's say you only want to include H2 to H4. Well, just create 3 list items instead. Easy. Each list item is a flex container with items centered along the y-axis, space between on the x-axis, a gap of 1 rem and some vertical padding. Why use flex if there's only one visible element? Because there are actually 2 elements inside each item, one visible and one optional, and currently hidden. The first and most important child is the link, which will correspond to a heading in the content. You can style this however you like, but here's what we did. We added left padding to visually represent the heading level, 0.5 rem for H2, 1.5 rem for H3, 2 rem for H4, and so on. But why start at 0.5 rem and not 0? Because each link also has a 2-pixel left border, which is transparent by default, but will become colored when the link is active. So that extra padding keeps the text from budding into the border, both for clarity and for better visual hierarchy. We also added smooth transition for the border color and text color, so the active state feels more dynamic and polished. But here's the real kicker. Each link also has the fctoc attribute set to the corresponding heading level, like fctoc equals H2. This is essential. It tells the script, when you find an H2 in the content, create a link and inject it here. Now, the second element inside the list item, which only appears under the H2 item, is an icon. In our case, it's a simple cross icon, but feel free to use whatever you like. It acts as a toggle to expand or collapse the group of links under a single H2. By default, all groups are expanded, but we'll see in a bit how to change that with a simple attribute. This icon has 2 important attributes. fctoc open group, which makes it act as a group toggle, and fctoc rotate equals, in this case, -45, which rotates the icon when the group is open, giving visual feedback. Before we move on, there's one last key element, the class we're using to style the current link in the TOC. In this case, it's called u-toc-current-link. This class gets applied automatically by the script when a section is currently in view. That's what we mean by active link. In our example, the link gets a colored border and a different text color. But the name of the class doesn't really matter. What matters is the attribute fctoc equals active style. That's what tells the script, when a link becomes active, apply this class. Alright, that was quite the deep dive. Let's now publish our project and take a look at it in action with a live preview. First of all, the table of contents is working exactly as expected. It's being generated dynamically from the blog post content, and it includes all the heading levels we specified earlier. Now, watch what happens as we scroll. The moment a heading reaches the middle of the viewport, the corresponding link in the TOC gets highlighted. As we continue scrolling, the next headings do the same, activating their links one after the other. To improve the experience even more, the TOC itself scrolls automatically, keeping the active link centered within the panel whenever possible. And if we click on any of those links, the page scrolls smoothly until the corresponding heading is centered in the viewport, while the TOC panel scrolls again to keep the link in focus. Alright, but what if we wanted a cleaner, more compact version of our table of contents? Let's say we only want to show the H2 links at first, and let users expand the subheadings if they want to dive deeper. Can we do that? Yes, absolutely. All we need is a simple attribute. fctoc collapse equals true, applied to the ordered list that represents our TOC component. That's it. The result is a collapsible TOC, where only H2 links are initially visible. But just hiding content isn't enough. We also want to suggest to users that there's more to explore, and that those H2 links are expandable. That's where our little icon comes in. We've already seen that inside the first list item, the one corresponding to H2, we've added a small icon with a class TOC open group icon. This icon is animated with a transform transition, so it rotates smoothly when a group is opened or closed. We've also set the cursor to pointer to make it clear it's clickable. But as always, the real magic is in the element settings panel. Once again, we've assigned two attributes to this icon. fctoc equals open group, which tells the script this is the button used to toggle the group below this heading. And then fctoc rotate equals -45, which defines how the icon should rotate when the group is open. The default value as well is -45, but you can change it to anything that works with your design. But we're not done yet. There's one more piece to complete the puzzle. A special class called TOC-subitems. This class is used internally by the script, so it must be named exactly like that. In our project, we added a simple div with this class right after the rich text block, just to keep things organized. But technically, you can place it anywhere on the page. Just make sure it's on the same page, especially if you're using per-page CSS. Otherwise, it might not work properly. So, what does this class actually do? Well, this is the container that wraps each collapsible group under a single H2. If we want that group to behave like a dropdown, we need to give it some basic styles. Set the overflow to hidden and set max height to 0 to hide the group initially, and add a max height transition, matching the duration and easing of the icon we discussed earlier. This makes sure the group expands smoothly when toggled and collapses just as nicely. Alright, let's go back to our live preview and see how all this works together. First of all, as expected, only the H2 links are visible initially. And yes, each has a cute little icon next to it. As soon as the first H2 reaches the middle of the viewport, the group under it expands automatically. The corresponding link becomes active, and as we keep scrolling, the links under that group update just like before. Then, as the next H2 comes into view, the new group opens, the previous one collapses, and of course, the TOC scrolls to center the active link. always keeping things in focus. One last detail. If a H2 doesn't have any subheadings beneath it, there's no group to expand, so the icon won't show up. Clean and smart. You can also manually open or close any group by clicking the icon. However, if a link inside a group is active, the group cannot be closed manually. Why? Because we don't want users to lose track of where they are in the document. Also, if you open a group manually and then resume scrolling, the script will automatically close the previously opened group and activate the correct one. Simple, elegant, and user-friendly. And now that we've seen how everything works together, it's time to take a quick look under the hood and understand how all of this is powered behind the scenes. Let's talk code. Alright, let's take a quick look at what's powering this entire solution behind the scenes. If we scroll down to the bottom of our post content wrapper, we'll find a custom component called TOC script. If we open it up, we'll see that it contains an embed element. And yes, let's be honest, there's quite a bit of code inside. But don't worry, we've added comments throughout the script to help you understand what each part does, so you're never left guessing. And anyway, as usual, you don't really have to understand any of it. Just follow the instructions, use the right attribute, configure it, and enjoy your table of contents. But anyway, what's this code doing exactly? Let me give you a quick overview. First, it scans the content inside the element marked with the fc_toc equals content attribute. That's our rich text block. Then it finds all the headings you've told it to look for, like H2, H3, H4, etc. Then, based on those headings, it builds a list of links and injects them into the element with the fc-toc equals component attribute. As you scroll through the page, it tracks the heading currently in view and applies the fc-toc equals active style class to the corresponding link. If you've enabled collapsible group using fc-toc-collapse equals true, it handles expanding and collapsing the groups based on scroll position or manual interaction. It also manages all the automatic scrolling, centering, and group toggling animations, all in a way that's accessible, responsive, and smooth. So, yes, the code looks long, but it's doing a lot of work behind the scenes to make your table of contents smart, elegant, and totally hands-off. Now, before we jump into the responsive setup, I want to remind you that if you go back to the homepage of this project, you'll find all the instructions and documentation you need to configure the solution completely on your own. Everything is explained in a clear, beginner-friendly way, and that includes a full list of custom attributes you can use to fine-tune your TOC. Let's quickly go over the optional attributes and what each one does. fc-toc-collapse collapses all subheadings under each H2 into expandable groups. Default value is false, and if omitted, all links will be visible and expanded by default. Then we have fc-toc equals open group. Tells the script this is the toggle button for a group of links, and it's required only when you want collapsible groups. Finally, we have fc-toc-rotate, and it rotates the group toggle icon when its group is open. Default value is -45 degrees. You can change this to any rotation angle, positive or negative. And that wraps up our quick tour of the behind the scenes mechanics. Next up, let's talk responsiveness, because, I wouldn't leave you hanging when it comes to mobile UX. We can't just keep the TOC permanently visible on smaller screens. That would take up way too much space. So instead, we've turned it into a pop-up panel, triggered by a nice little button. Let's switch to the tablet breakpoint to see how it works. This is where we finally meet the mysterious blog post open TOC button, the custom element we briefly mentioned at the beginning of the video. It's set to position sticky, just like the TOC, and we turned it into an actual button. by using the appropriate HTML tag. Inside, there's a simple div block that we styled into a circle, purely because I have no design skills whatsoever and had no idea how to style a proper button. But hey, it works. Now, the cool part is that this button has a click interaction applied to it, and this animation is active only from the tablet breakpoint and down. So, where did the TOC go? Well, we've made it invisible by default, but if we temporarily bring it back, we can see that it's been completely transformed. Now, the TOC behaves like a pop-up panel anchored to the bottom of the viewport. It sits on top of a div block with a semi-transparent blurred background, which helps separate it from the page behind. When you click the button, the TOC becomes visible, the background fades in from opacity 0 to 1, and the panel slides up from the bottom of the screen. Simple, clean, and mobile friendly. And of course, if you click the blurred background, the animation runs in reverse. The background fades out, the panel slides down and disappears, and everything gets hidden again to keep the page nice and clean. Alright, let's switch to responsive preview mode and taste it out live. We tap the button, the TOC slides up, scrollable and smooth. We click link, the panel closes and the page scrolls straight to the corresponding heading. We scroll a bit more, open the TOC again, and boom, the active link is already centered. We tap the background and the TOC quietly disappears. And of course, we can do this as many times as we want. The whole thing just works. And with that, we're heading into the final stretch of today's video. Alright, let's wrap things up. In this video, we looked at how to structure your Webflow project to support a fully dynamic table of contents, how to configure the component using simple and accessible custom attributes, how to enable collapsible heading groups for a cleaner user experience, how to keep everything responsive and smooth, even on mobile, and how the custom code ties everything together without needing any external libraries. Everything you've seen today is part of a fully clonable Webflow project, and as always, you'll find all the documentation and attributes on the homepage of the project. Links in the description below. If you're looking forward to experimenting with it as much as I am, go ahead, clone it, tweak it, break it, fix it, and make it your own. And if you found this video helpful and want to support my work, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more Webflow tips, tricks, and weird experiments. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Matane!